it's Man Cheresenu, it's a time of our freedom, and in fact, the Gemara says, Maschilin begnus Messiahim b'shvach. You start out talking about the fact that we were slaves, and we conclude that we're set free. So we do different things in the Seder to commemorate our slavery, our servitude, and different things to celebrate our freedom. So, for example, we have Morer. That's slavery. Matzah, we say the end of Hagaddah, what's the matzah? Because we left Mitzrayim, but didn't have time for it to rise. So that's a sign of freedom. Wine is a sign of freedom. Leaning is a sign of freedom, and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. If you think about it, every single symbolism that we have for freedom at the same time also symbolizes our servitude. For example, let's start with karpas. Okay, karpas is dipping. Dipping is a sign of royalty. It's a sign of freedom. But what are we dipping into? Salt water, tears. That's to remind us of the hardships. Right? You have the both feet. Morer. Morer is obviously a sign of our bitter times, right? Yep. And then we dip it, which is a sign of royalty. Furthermore, we dip it in charesis, which has wine in it. Why do we have wine the color red? To remind us of the makkah, the makkah of dam, which is freedom, the beginning of our freedom. Matzah. Matzah is supposed to be a sign of our freedom. And yet matzah is lechem avini. It's the poor man's bread, and we actually begin the Hagaddah. It reminds us of our servitude. You go through every single thing, and it does both. Yep. Even wine. Wine is supposed to be chayros, right? Yep. We dafka want you to have red wine. Why do we want you to have red wine? One reason is because red wine is, let's say, the quality is better, at least in those days. The second reason is to remind us of the blood that Paro used to, unfortunately, shech his little baby because he was a leper. Yeah. This is wine, freedom. What's going on here? Yeah. Every single item that's marked freedom marks servitude. Marked servitude, marked freedom. Mm-hmm. So shot like this. Hagaddah is teaching us, is a manual teaching us how to be a Yid. Right? We had a munah. What we achieved in Mitzrayim, when we left Mitzrayim, Mechel Demus, we had a munah. It's telling you every single event in life can be interpreted two ways. You can look at it and interpret it as a terrible thing, as a negative experience, as servitude, as avdus, and the very same experience, someone else can interpret it as chayros, as freedom. And if you have a munah that everything comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then whatever you see will be chayros. Yes. If you're lacking emunah and you just go with the wind, and everything you see, especially if it looks negative, is avdus. And that's what the Pesach Seder is trying to teach us. Man Cheresenu is that we have to learn and have emunah. It should be so grounded in us that we see everything in a manner of Cheresenu. It's only Eibish's hand, whatever happens. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's shot number one. Yes. Yep. That's original, so you can say it in your own name. Yeah. The second thing is that, what do you call it? In the Hagaddah, the psukim that we bring to retell the story of Pesach, it does not come from Chumash Shmos, which in Chumash Shmos is basically the story of Mitzrayim, the whole story. It comes from Parshas Kisaveh, when somebody comes to the Beis Hamikdash and brings his Bikurim and his Maasros, and he says a whole story, a piece of history, Aram Yoeved Avi, and Adis Hashem L'Ke'avaseinu. All those psukim come from Parshas Kisaveh. Happened 40 years later. It's a totally different generation. The generation left Egypt all died out. Why would the Bal Hagaddah insert psukim Hagaddah that were not from the original story? Isn't the whole point of the night is to relive the whole story? Mm-hmm. Like this. It says in the pasuk, "Leman tesaper." I want you to tell me the story of trying. Leman tesaper ba'ozne bidcha ubnei bidcha. I want you to tell the story to your children and your grandchildren. What do you mean to your grandchildren? The mitzvah is to tell your children. In fact, it's an interesting shaila. Just it's an interesting debate you have at the table. Mm-hmm. If your grandchildren and children all come to you for the Seder, and you're running the show, you're talking and you're saying the Hagaddah and everything else, how are your children gates of their mitzvah v'gara to levincha? with their children. When you're stealing the whole show.
Right.
You're the grandfather. Yeah. So someone say from this pasuk is a proof that but the Torah says in the mitzvah you got to mincha say the ben mincha. So why do you include grandchildren there? We include grandchildren to tell you when do you know that you actually told the story properly, and that to you and it was significant enough that your children accepted it, received it, and absorbed it. Is only if the bnei mincha are also involved. So that's a laman tesapel mincha. How should you tell the story to your children that they in turn will be excited and passionate about and try and tell it to their children? Then you know that you were Mekayim the mitzvah of a siprit in Mitzrayim the way you meant to. When did we know that we were successful in the story of Chayav Niras Atzmai? When the next generation, they weren't even there. And they retold the story with the same enthusiasm, like the generation. Then we know that this is that we have a future. That we were able to pass on, what we saw. We were witnesses in history, pass it on to the next generation. We're not witnesses, but they delivered as well. That's what the story is, because we get the next generation involved.
Also stops the assimilation. You're passing on next generation. I'll take overall.
Oh, that's your addition, that's your input, so now that's your vote as well. This is also original, so
right.
you just made it yours.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
The next one is not my vote, but it's a beautiful vote.
Yeah.
Why do we drink 4 cups of wine? Why do we drink 4 cups of wine? By the way, it says in one of the Rishonim, the 3 matzahs are for Avram, Yishchak, and Yaakov. And that's why we split the middle matzah, because Yitzchak we split. And the reason why we split the middle matzah is because when Mashiach will come, and Hashem will say to Avram, your children sinned. And Avram said, well, they sinned, they punished them. Hashem went to Yaakov and said, your children sinned. And Yaakov said, well, they sinned, punished them. He then went to Yitzchak and said, Yitzchak, your children sinned. Yitzchak said, my children? Well, they're not your children. You're right. B'ni b'chaydi Yisrael. You're in the Torah. You're right that they're not your children. And then he says, look, the first 20 years don't count. The Bezos from Isla does not punish for the first 20 years. Okay. Then your person lives 70 years, so you're 50 years. Half the time you're asleep or reading. So you're only reading 25 years. So he says to the Eibishter, Palgi alai, palgi aloch. I will take responsibility for half of that 25 years as a father of the Eden, and you also as a father of the Eden take responsibility on the other half of the 25. And David said, Nichamtani, because of you, I will take the Eden out. So when Mashiach will come, it says that we're going to say to Yitzchak, Ki ata avinu. Only to Yitzchak, not to Abraham and not to Yaakov. So therefore, we break the middle matzah to show that Yitzchak was the one who said, let's break it in half. I'll take half the responsibility and you take the other half responsibility. So that's the 3 matzahs. And the 4 cups is the 4 mothers, the 4 imois. The first case is Kiddush. He made us holy. Who was the first person who made Gerim? Sarah and Abram. So therefore, Sarah is the first cup. The second cup is all about Lavan, which is Rivka's brother. Rami Yogodabi tried to kill us, and Pari learned from him. The third cup is benching that Hashem provides for all of us. That was Rachel, her son Yosef, provided for the whole world. And the 4th cup is Nirza, that we're trying to appease. And Leah always tried to appease Yaakov. She had 6 children and everything else. So Leah is the 4th cup. And Nirza also is Mashiach. And that's when, Yehuda comes from Leah. These are the 4 cups. But the Shalah, that's one of the reasons. But the Shalah Kaddish says, you know why we have 4 cups? Because you have 4 letters of Hashem's name. Yud, K, Vav, K. What does it mean by that? That's 7 names to Hashem that you're not allowed to erase. Kel, Elikim, Elikah, 7 names, Shakai. But the highest level is Yud Kei Vav Kei. So we want to say that which level of Hashem is manifest. The Seder is Yud Kei Vav Kei. So we drink 4 cups. It's the only name of Hashem that has 4 letters. So we drink 4 cups. And in fact, that's what Shalah says. And then I'll add the rest in a minute. But in fact, it says in Sfarim, why does the Halach Ma'anya open up in Aramaic? Because everybody said because they lived in Babel and therefore they're in Aramaic, that opening paragraph from Vayik Tepuch. Others say, the Gemara says that you're not allowed to daven in Aramaic because all about Tfilis, we need an intercessor, which are the Malachim. They carry out Tfilis, Matat, and Malachim don't understand Aramaic. That's what Gemara Shabbos says the Purim base. Malachim don't understand Aramaic. So if you daven on your own, Shulchan Aruch talks about whether you like, whether you say Kumpurkan because Aramaic, these things which are Aramaic, or not. But the Gemara there in Shabbos says, but if you're visiting a sick person, you can give all the brachas in Aramaic because the Shechina itself is sitting on the side of a sick person, and you're talking directly to the Shechina. You don't need any interventions. You don't need any intercessors. You don't need a malach or any advocates. So when we start the Seder, we begin in Aramaic to tell us that we don't need tonight. Hashem himself, Nigla Aleya Melech Malche Hamlach. Hashem himself is there. We don't need any malachim, so we can talk in Aramaic. So we deliberately speak in Aramaic, the first paragraph, to demonstrate what level we are dealing here with, the highest level of Hashem. Melech Malche Hamlach HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. Okay, so that's another thing. I put it together. But now, if the four koshes make up Hashem, how can we eat right in the middle? How can you have Shulchan Aruch Yud-Kei, Shulchan Aruch Vav-Kei? Shouldn't we drink all four cups in succession and complete Hashem's name, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei? Why do we break it up something so mundane? Having a meal. So, the number of answers, I'll just give you one answer. Yep. And I can't remember, to be honest, if I ever saw this anywhere or not. And I just made up I don't know. I don't remember. So let's assume I saw it somewhere and I have no idea where. Right. So, most Hebrew words that describe physical activities had in it the letters Yud and K. For example, Achila, to eat, is Aleph, Chaf, Yud, Lamed, Hey. To drink, Shtia, Shin, Tov, Yud, K. Sleeping, Lina, Lamed, Yud, Nun, Hey. Going, Halicha, Hey, Lamed, Yud, Chav, Hey. The so on and so forth. There are exceptions. But these are majority words. Majority of the words that describe a ruchnistic activity have it above K. So, for example, Torah, Taf, Vav, Resh, Hey. Mitzri, Mem, Tzadik, Vav, Hey. Tshuva, Taf, Shin, Vav, Beis, Hey. Avoida, davening, Ayin, Beis, Vav, Dal, Hey. There are exceptions like Tefillah, is educated, but most of the ruchnistic words have Vav, K. What does it mean? It means that the tachlis of every yid is to take the gashmias and elevate it to ruchnias. So we're taking and connecting the Yud K with above K. Hashem says Mashiach will come when my name is complete. I said by Amalek, Ki Yoda Koska. Right now my name is incomplete. What is complete? Oh, that's our body. Make it there without training. Without training brings together the Yud K and the above K and makes the full name of Hashem. So we dafke have the Shulchan Aruch between the Yud K and the Vav K to show it's not a contradiction. On the contrary, our Gashmi is part of the Avodah to bring the first part of the Yud K and the Vav K together. The Yud K, the God, and that's what our Avodah is. So this is what we're a nation on. And he's giving us our mission statement, and this is what it is. That we have to bring it together. That's why we have the 4 cups and the 2 cases in between.
Good, very good.
Okay. Another, more time, and let me just stop.
One more, there we go.
Okay, one more. Okay, the last one. I might have told you this before, but it's a beautiful book. The Talmidim came to the Rebbe's Rabbi saying, it's time to come to an end. And they stopped. Now the question is, you're talking about here Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Lezer, the greatest rabbis of that generation. And Rabbi Akiva Moshe Rabbeinu, was so overawed by him. How does the Talmidim have the chutzpah to interrupt the conversation? Number one. Number two, had it been the end of Zman Krishma, okay, if they don't say Krishma now, there's a problem. It's the beginning of Zman Krishma. Higia Zman Krishma Shoshachis. So why stop them? Let them continue. So what's Pshat? So Pshat like this. And then the famous question that everybody asks, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah believed that the mitzvah Hagaddah ends at midnight. So why was he still there if it's still the morning?
Oh, yeah.
So, Pshat like this. Pshat is that this is not based on the Free Rebbe's little book. Free Rebbe once said, why, in 2 paragraphs down, it says, Baruch HaMakom Baruch Hu, Baruch Shlosheh L'Am Yisrael Baruch Hu, Keneged Abba Banin Dimitri. This corresponds to the 4 sons. Echad Chacham, Echad Rasha, Echad Tam, Echad Ewish. As an aside, nothing to do with my work here, but what do you mean Keneged Abba Banim? How do you see the 4 children here? So the Baruch HaMakim, who refers to Hashem as HaMakim? Everyone will call Hashem Hashem. Idea Makim is Hashem. Hashem fills every world and every sphere and everything else. Who would say that? Only the Chacham.
Yeah.
So Baruch HaMakim is Keneged the Chacham.
Right.
Baruch Hu, third person, I'm not interested in, do with me. That's the Rosh. Baruch Shanasa Torah Lam Yisrael is pretty simple. What is the Eibush? He gave us the Torah. That's the Tam.
Yep.
And the last one, Baruch Hu, is the She'ein De'eli shows that he doesn't know. Not because he's being malicious or anything, he just doesn't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Figure asked a very simple question. Why does it say Echad Chacham, Echad Rosh? Why do you say 4 times Echad? Just say Kenega Baba in Torah. You can maybe say once Echad. Echad Chacham, Rosh, Tam Ben Elish. Figure says the purpose of the Seder is to instill the belief in Hashem Echad in all of your 4 children. Chacham, the Rosh, Tam, every one of them needs more emunah. Even the Chacham, he asks a lot of questions. It has to be grounded in emunah. He has to make sure that the bedrock of everything is emunah. So that's Figure's word. Now let's go back to Talmidim.
Right. Yeah.
So the purpose of the Rebbe saying the story is to inspire their children, their Talmidim are the children. At when it says Shenantul v'nechei Krishma habanim elu Talmidim, Talmidim. So that they have to be inspired. So he says to what do you call? So Talmidim say to the Rebbe, Rabbeinu, Rabbeinu, Higiyaz man Krishma. We all, not the time on the clock. You've Yotze your mitzvah of Yitzias Mitzrayim because we have all reached the level of Krishma. What's Krishma? Our allegiance, Pledge of Allegiance. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. I want you to know that we believe in Hashem Echad. You've achieved. Your whole purpose is to instill in us the belief in Hashem Echad. You've achieved that.
Yep.
We Yigiyaz man Krishma. Who's all of us? Shal Shachris. Shachris doesn't mean the morning. Shachris is an acronym. Shachris is Shina She'ena Yeteya. Ches is the Chacham, the Reish is the Rosha, and the Tov is the Tam.
Yeah.
That all 4 of us
Yeah.
have reached the level of Krishna. Okay, just to finish up with the 4 sons, the last thing here.
Yeah.
The answer to the She'ein Elisho is exactly the same as to the Rosha. The Rosha, when he says this thing, we say to him, Babu Zeh Os Hashem Li B'Tzeisi Mitzrayim. Hashem did this to me, Li V'Loy Loy, me and not to you. Right? That's what we say to the Rosha.
Yep.
Then the She'ein just says nothing. So it says that at Psachla, you have to start the conversation. Shenema, because it says, V'Galat Levinucha Bayema Hu, tell your son on that day, Babu Zeh Os Hashem Li B'Tzeisi Mitzrayim. Same answer, same pasuk. And also by the She'ein Elisho, you begin with V'Galat Levinucha Bayema Hu. We don't give that preamble by the Rosha. Why is that? So shot like this. She'ein Elisho is a kid, probably a little bit indifferent, doesn't care that much. As a parent, Hagaddah says, if you don't get him involved, engage him at a young age, when he's just, he's a kid. He's a kid. But indifferent, he's not interested or ambivalent about everything. If you don't get him involved, we want, be God to Levincha, you must start telling him, Bayemahu, that day when he's a little kid. Don't say, when he get older, I'll start getting involved in Yiddishkeit. If you don't start getting involved by Yemahu, and that day when he's young, and you don't tell him the story of Mitzrayim, you're going to be saying the same pasuk to this kid, but he will no longer be an ambivalent kid. He will turn out to be the Rasha. So therefore, by Yemahu, talk to him when he's young, and don't wait till they get older and say, I'll talk to him then. Last word about the Rasha. Sorry, I couldn't finish this one yet. Right. Some good stuff you can say that. The last thing is, everyone wants to know the difference between the Chacham's question and the Rasha's question, right? The Chacham says, he told you. Yep. And the Rasha says, Lechem. Lechem and Eschem in Hebrew mean exactly the same thing. So what's Pshat? So the Pshat is like this. So in Yerushalmi it says, Oisanu. Doesn't even say Eschem, it says Oisanu. That would have been very nice. But, what do you call it? In our God, it says Eschem. So pshat like this. And also, where do you see the Chachma's wisdom here? All he asks is, tell me all the chukim and all the mitzvahs and all the mishpatim. You see any ingenious here? What's so clever about that? Right. He's asking pretty much basics. So pshat like this. Chacham says Eschem. In that word Eschem, it contains his whole brilliance. The word Eschem is made up of an aleph, a taf, and then a chaf and a mem. Aleph is the first letter of the Aleph Beis, the Tuf is the last letter, and the Chaf Mem is right in the middle. So the Chacham says, first of all, Aleph, tell me the background. What's going on here? What's Pesach all about? What's happening here? Then tell me the Tuf. And if we do all these things, what are we going to achieve? And Ruchnius and Gashmius, what's the point? And then once he understands everything, he says, Chaf Mem, tell me the here and now. So what am I supposed to do? What mitzvahs am I doing? The Wundergan says that's 67 mitzvahs. What am I supposed to do? And so on. Mm-hmm. But then the Rasha heard the Chacham ask the question. And the Rasha deliberately changes the word eschem to lechem. He took away the Aleph, took away the Tuf, and he only used the three middle letters of the Aleph base, the Chaf, the Lamed, and the Mem, lechem. Mm-hmm. So the Hagaddah says, Lefi shahoitzi es, because he took away the letters Aleph and Tuf. Es is Aleph Tuf. Lefi shahoitzi es atzma. He took away those very letters. He said, I'm not interested. I heard what you said. I'm not interested. And Kofabika. And even what he does is worthless. That's why he's a Russian. That's not mine. It's a brilliant thing. My father used to say, brilliant. Anyway. Thank you. You should have a kosher for Erev Pesach.
Yeah, you want to say? You're going away, yeah?
I'm going away next Mitzvah Shabbos and Mitzvah Shabbos.
Beautiful, beautiful. Right. How long?
I'm going to be back Sunday to a week and a half after Pesach. Go around the world and Pesach ends on Thursday.
Of course, yeah, that's right.
Anyway, and we always finish the Seder with this word here. It says in Hallel, Eim Haban Yismecha, we say right before the Bishul, Eim Haban Yismecha, look at the mother of the children is happy. Thank God. Mm-hmm. Which mother are we talking about here? Who's the mother of the children?
Yeah.
And happy about what? So Pshat is, Aim is an acronym. That Aim always makes the children happy. Aim is Aaron and Moshe. They took us out of the first exile out of Mitzrayim. Then Aim was Esther Mordechai. They took us out of Haman's clutches. Right. And Aim finally will take us out of this Galus Eliyahu and Mashiach and bring us to the Gula Shlema, Shor Abba Yisrael.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway, that's how we always finish off the Seder.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah.